I just wanted to. I feel like I gotta tell the story. I wonder if we're allowed to. Maybe Christian, you can tell us after or whatever
What?
about my favorite competition that we've never run.
Oh no.
Which the golden packs actually reminded me of it because the whole golden ticket thing.
Yeah.
But the
That's what
that would
reminded you.
that actually
Oh,
would be
yeah.
so perfect.
Oh
But
no.
I feel we had this thing where the going back to the old office, and I think this is a nice representation of the Kiwi.
The rags,
It's
The,
too
the rags to riches, the progression of
yeah, and they're like the
the
Kiwi
dev
ingenuity, like muck in and do it yourselves. Like, I actually grew up on a farm.
No one else.
No, that is the funniest thing you've said in a long time.
No, but we used to have this thing. The classic thing was be a dev for a day, right?
Oh yeah,
And so and the be a dev for a day is we always thought it'd be a great competition to run. So like maybe you open a golden pack or you like submit a card design or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to say before being a dev, right? There was something to like strive towards as a player. Well, back when we did Session Blood, like we were just kind of always kind of thinking, what happens in a day of a dev?
Yeah, and so like the whole be a dev for a day competition. The great thing is like you win the competition and then you come to the office, and then it's like, all right, now I'm going to be a dev for the day.
Yeah, the kind of everything's revealed, right? You have this kind of insight into like the processes.
James White and Chris meet you downstairs and shake your hand and say,
Yeah.
welcome to Legend Story Studios. And then you jump into it. So for a bit of context, man, this is a rambling story, but for a bit of context, when we were back at the old office, like we said, we all kind of like helped out with a lot of different things. They're probably a bit more formalized now for the like,
a different role, like what roles you have.
yeah, and then like the general logistics of doing things. So like, for all the armory kits and the playmats, like, how do they just appear in stores? So the best part was that pretty like, what was it, once a month or something? Once every so often, the promos and the playmats would arrive at the office in this like giant truck. We would just like pull into the parking lot, and then like someone would come through, usually like Newson or Chris Hallows, whatever, and be like, all right, boys, like the truck is here. And we're like, all right, it's time to be a dev for a day. And to be a dev for a day is basically we go down and there's like 14 pallets of playmats.
And those pallets are big. They're like my height, and they're like freaking meter and a half square.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're heavy as well. And so basically, like, we'd all just like stop what we were doing, we'd go down and like, all right, so now we've got to like load these 14 pallets and take it up 2 flights of stairs. Because we had an elevator, but it was one elevator, it was tiny, and it was quite slow. And so we'd have like 8 devs just like shoveling these boxes of playmats up the stairs and everything and moving them, or like boxes of promos and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes it would take like multiple hours, right?
Hours.
Yep.
There's nothing like, I still remember kind of like having an idea for like a deck, maybe trying to find something broken, and you just like something that just didn't feel right in the set, and you just hear this like beep, 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 and you're dropping everything.
You can see the truck pull up from the second floor. You can see the top of the truck like slide across the window.
Like I think the final checks for Tales of Aria. All right, well, let's lock in. All right, the truck's here. So that was always the vision for the beer dip day. You rock up and like maybe you have a coffee with James and stuff, and then they're like, "All right, can't wait to see the cards." And the truck pulls up. Like,
Yeah.
Literally my second day as dev. It was Tuesday. It always comes in on a Tuesday.
And then the truck rolls up, and you're like, "All right, this is all the devs muck in. We got to help out here." So you do this, and it goes to lunchtime, and then you have lunch. And then the afternoon, it's like, oh, we're actually a little bit behind on the armory kits. The armory kits gets about 3:30, and you're like, all right, James, when are we about to see the cards? Oh, that's not part of the competition. But the last little part of this, the funniest one ever, is my very first ever dev for a day. And you'll remember this one, Carol.
Oh,
we were like,
yeah.
the truck rolled up, and I'm like, all right, everyone downstairs. I'm like, wait, what? And like, the promos are here. And this is back in like 2021, like early. And so we're like going down, and like, all right, just carry these up. But be very careful. Be very careful with these things because you don't want to drop them, and they can be a little bit fragile. I'm like, yeah, I've got this. So, I pick up this big box of promos, and I'm like going up the stairs, and it's all good. I go down, grab another one. I'm coming up, and like as I go to put it down, and I still blame the box. I feel like the box disintegrated. It wasn't.
It wasn't the most secure thing.
Yeah, and then so I'm like going down, and this thing just like disintegrates, or maybe I stumbled. I was like, oh, my promo was there. And I do this, and then like right as I do it, like, I see a bunch of promos just spill out everywhere. And then, like, Alan walks in, and then Jason Chung walks in, and Jason looks at it and goes, ooh, that's not good. And Alan's like, yeah, that's not great. I'm like, and then I'm panicking. I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, just got to go tell James. So I'm like, all right. So I walk downstairs, and I see James, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, hey, James. And he turns around, and it's classic James, like, huge smile on his face. He's like, hey, Kieran, how's it going? And I'm like, James, I just dropped a full box of promos. His face falls, but he's like, that's not good, mate.
I swear, like, I thought, and in my memory, I always have this thing where you just, like, drop the box, kind of, like, fumble it onto the ground, and as you're trying to, like, scramble it, you look up, and there's James being like, hey, Kieran.
I told you to be careful. But anyway, I mean, I think it was the Ramos. We had to scrap some, like, promos or whatever, but it is what it is. We had a fun story.
If anyone out there, is willing to step up to be a dev for a day, just come down when there's a delivery. I would love to see people's like eyes being like, yeah, I can finally do it. I can finally do some dev work. It's like, yeah, take your hoodie off, get ready, stay hydrated because you're about to lift some
Allow
heavyweights.
us to part the Mistveil, open up the truck.
Oh boy.
Um,
So last weekend.
Who's that?
all right, so US Nationals, United States of America National Championship.
Yes,
And what a start to the Nationals season. I feel like it's cool having such a huge, because this is U.S. Nationals is like, you could take a bunch of Nationals and combine them, and that's what it is. It's just so much bigger than any other Nationals that it kind of like sets the tone.
Very, very elegant metaphor. So
Yeah.
you take these Nationals and
I've got
you
a
get
way
US
with descriptive words.
but yeah, you're right. It's kind of like an extra pro tour, right?
Exactly.
Like
It has that feel to it.
I'm sure our European APAC friends won't be happy with me saying that, but like it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's massive. It's the biggest Nationals by a large margin, and it's really cool that it was put at the start of the season. So then we get to see what people have come up with not a whole lot of prep time, right? Like the release was a couple weeks ago, 2-3-ish weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I always like seeing some of like the psyops on Twitter, like, oh, this deck's broken, or like, nah, you guys are gonna see, and blah blah.
Yeah,
blah.
what was up with the whole like was it Blue Sing below of Deep Blue Sea? That kind of like there was this kind of meme going around of
I saw like Dagan White posted something or other.
yeah, and it's
I
just
don't
like
know.
classic.
It's,
Classic psyop.
yeah,
classic
no, the all-time great one is still like Knick Knack Bric-a-Brac. Yeah, shout
never
out Tarek.
forget.
Never forget. But anyway, I feel like obviously there was a clear breakout deck from the tournament that was just doing extremely well the whole time. So we should probably start with Vincent.
Eloquent eulogy, just push that deck over the top.
Yeah, but Zen just came out of the gates hot. I feel a lot of people were saying this is one of the stronger decks in the format. Obviously, Traverse the Universe, very powerful piece of equipment, along with all his equipment, really. Like the Shuko, the chest, the legs, they all just work really well.
Big fridge.
Big fridge. I mean, that's the thing. I was watching a lot of those games, man, and I'm like, oh, this game's getting kind of close. Evenish life totals. Oh, wait, he's got 7 blocks on equips.
Draws his Art of War. Shove.
So, yeah, I think we'll definitely get to Zen and talk about how well that deck performed. I mean, 3 players in the top 8, was the most played deck. I think it had one of the best conversion rates, not the best conversion from day 1 to day 2. But just looking at Part of Mistveil in general, came out hard, right? 38% of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just then. I mean, New saw a huge representation, Enigma saw a huge representation, and Success. That's something that was interesting to me, was that, Zen seemed to have performed the best out of the 3, with Enigma kind of being the second one. But New saw a lot of representation over the whole weekend and just couldn't convert.
Yeah, I mean, New 12% of the field, Enigma 12% of the field as well. So, those 2 decks alone, excluding Zen, that's about 25% right there.
Yeah.
Wait, is it? Yeah. I mean, speaking of New, I heard there was a player who made a pretty sick bluff around the Fang Strike, Roger Bodie.
Oh yeah,
Oh no, he's playing against Nu.
he was playing against Nu. It was during the draft. Roger was playing Zen,
You have to
and
bluff his chest, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he was on 3 life. He knew his opponent had a Fang Strike in their arsenal, and it was Pat Esky.
Yep.
It was attacking with a red stealth attack for 3, and Roger went for the Stride of Reprisal block, cleanly blocking it for 1, taking 2, and Pat, after careful consideration, decided not to pull the trigger because it's so hard to do that in that spot. If your opponent has like an evasive leap or any form of way to stop that they can just shut down that attack cleanly for 3, then
like-
you're just kind of losing out value. So it's obviously Pat knows that Roger is a good player and he wouldn't leave himself open like that. So he decided to keep that Fang Strike and.
Yeah, because you get into 1, your kill con's a Fang Strike, but yeah, man. There you go, Roger. You got 2 minutes of airtime talking about the bluff.
Yeah, no, it was a sick play.
bluff.
It was definitely a sick play.
The bluff reminds me of the block. Famous
Yeah.
play from First Call.
But talking about kind of the Manor podcast members, Michael Hamilton 7-0 on day 1. One of the. It was cool for me to see, starting the day with 3 7-0s, all on Illusionists, 2 Enigmas, 1 Prism. Michael Hamilton, the kind of beacon of consistency and kind of the top level play, couldn't quite get there on day 2, but the other 2 did. Aaron Grace and on Enigma, kind of topping the Swiss, and also Prism making
Austin Summers.
Austin Summers, yeah, really cool build, kind of that hybrid Prism list.
It was spicy, man. It was
Really spicy.
Hybrid Prism list, Vestige, No Imperium Rapture.
Yeah, just committing onto that Vestige and the value that gives.
Had a great way to, I think, get the ALS loop going on. People had the Iris hybrid game plan to play into like Guardians and stuff like that as well. Yeah, it seemed pretty cool. I did a bit of a double take looking at the No Imperium. Okay, all right. Just before we move on to talking about some of our top 8 players as well, just wanted to mention another really highly represented deck, Azalea, as a Dazza. Once was a meme and now is a queen. Somewhat rhymes-ish.
But Azalea has been, even before part the Mistveil, just kind of seemed to perform so well at the top of the metagame, and I think it's just the raw power of the deck is there. Yeah. And she seems to be able to adapt to these part the Mistveil heroes, like the Zen. She has that disruptive potential against Zen. The Red and the Ledgers. She has the Murkmire Grapnels against Enigmas and kind of all the ward prevention stuff that Prism has to offer as well. So, I'm not surprised to see such a high representation of Azalea.
Yeah, no, Brody's been crushing on that deck recently as well. And then the other one of the top represented decks was KO. And I know, Jason, we were watching some of Andrew's games.
Oh my god, such a good player.
Yeah, like he played so clean. Like there was so many tight spots, right? That it looked like, how's he going to get out of this?
Yeah. So disciplined with the equipment and just playing extremely patient the whole game against some of these Zens, just knowing when his moment is and just playing towards that moment. And I thought that was just exciting to watch, honestly. Like he was playing very, very disciplined, and I don't know, it's just something you don't see that much with a deck like KO with a bunch of no blocks in hand. And
Andrew's a player that just keeps on popping up on stream, right? Like not just last weekend, but throughout most of the Pro Tours, right?
Yeah, well, Jason pointed out to me how incredibly consistent he's been across the Pro Tours, so I went back and tried to look a few up, and of course he had a top 4 place at Baltimore on Lexi, coming third there. But you look back at the other Pro Tours, Pro Tour New Jersey, 10th place, Pro Tour LA, 16th place, Pro Tour Lille, 23rd place. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Pro Tours where you've made the top 32, and Oh, I mean, sorry, this was US Nat, so
Yeah,
should've
yeah,
called it a
yeah.
Pro Tour.
All 5 Pro Tours.
Oh, God.
Whoa.
No, I know we've buzzed other stuff as well, but I'm just trying to point
Yeah,
out like how
absolutely.
like to have that level of results across that number of Premier tournaments is incredible. Like,
He is Mr. Consistent. Let's be
yeah.
honest.
And speaking of Mr. Consistent, we got to talk about our champ,
Evan Herndon.
Evan Herndon. What an absolute legend, man! Like, it was funny because I was watching the stream and his name came up, and I'm like, I swear I know that name from somewhere. Like, that name rings the bell. That I watch so many Fab events. I'm like, where do I know that from? I'm like, all right, that's right. Second at US National Champs last year.
Yeah, I think, for me, the moment when I knew Evan was a super talented player was when he was just so calm and collected and last year in the mirror against Michael Hamilton, and like knocking out Michael Hamilton out of top 8. That's when you know that there's something to this player. You know,
That's a feather in your cap.
absolutely, absolutely. And going from second to first, like that's another show of consistency for sure.
Yeah, and he went 11-0 in CC.
Really?
Yeah, like so like 8-0, and then obviously and then 3 on the top 8, of course, because he won the event.
Yeah.
But how incredible is that? Like to come second and then first. Like I'm always pretty big on players putting out really consistently strong results, as opposed to maybe like a single spike here and there. Like, don't get me wrong, like, hey, if you win a Pro Tour and never win anything again, like, you're still a legend in my eyes.
Absolutely.
But like these players who consistently do very well, like the Andrews, the Evans, the, Michael Hamiltons, Michael Figgins, all these types of players, your Alan Lowes of the world. Like, I think that's just a really marker of an incredibly good player. Jason, I wanted to ask you, I saw it. One of the things I loved about his list was the spicy Zephyr needle.
Oh, that was so good. I mean, I think I was being told about this list that had Zephyr needles on the weekend, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to see this on stream. And you see him play the mirror.
Ready to judge.
You see him play the mirror, and the Zephyr needles are coming in for 2 and 2 every turn, unblocked. And it's just like they're dealing 4 damage this turn, 4 damage next turn, and it's like 4 straight turns of Zephyr needles, and it's like this is so much value from these needles.
Like, bro, in the semi-final, I think the Zephyr needles push like 14 damage over the course of the game, which is nuts, right? And
Crazy.
it's just so hard to deal with because we're both playing like these kind of big combo decks in a way with the whole, Descendant Bonds situation going on. And if I attack with the needle, like, it's so hard to put a card in front. Because if I put a card in front to stop 2, that might lose me like so much more life
It
down
has
the
to be
line.
a 3 block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, true.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You're losing a point of value in the aggro mirror, and like just to break a needle, like can't fault anyone for not blocking the needle, but like that's a really good tech pick in my opinion to have in your Zen deck.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's an aggro mirror, the games just don't go long enough to get that value from breaking the needle, right? So I
exactly.
feel like that's why, and I think it's when you're watching Zen games, I feel like a lot of the time you kind of pay attention to the big spike turns, the big kind of, whether it's Out of War or like the Bonds turns and stuff. But I feel like
Sacred
a lot
Arts,
of a lot of games are won in extracting value from the smaller turns.
Exactly.
Trying to find ways to get those 2-card 7s or the kind of like trying to push the damage with breakpoints and stuff like that. And I feel like once you can get those points of damage in, then the big turn is the thing that kind of can win the game.
Just playing like some good, honest flesh and blood,
Yeah.
and honest turns damage.
Truly, like I think every time there's a US Nats or something, you always see the like breakout aggro deck as like the one that performs the best. But then like once you get to watch the top 8, you actually see the aggro players playing extremely value oriented. They're not like just balls to the wall, just like no blocks, attack you with everything. It's like they're playing a very, very disciplined game until they can kill their opponent. And that's exactly what you see Evan doing with the needles in particular. Like he's trying to push damage until he can kill them with a spike turn.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just really impressive fab, honestly. It might look like it's just aggro gameplay, but I think there's a lot of skill involved.
Yep.
It's like well-timed aggression, trying to... And the deck can defend for 3 here and there. You have the equipment blocks. There's a lot of maneuvering there.
And the thing is, well, like, and those decks can also be super explosive. So think I saw a shout out to Michael Dalton, I thought it was, with the
Yeah.
triple Art of War, Sacred Art.
Oh my goodness.
Rips the two
I feel like,
transcend.
yeah, that was against Jacob Shaker. I was just like, I was really kind of impressed with Jacob's kind of pace, just trying to like do that value gameplay we were talking about. But I mean, there is that potential to just go Art of War into another Art of War into another Art of War. I mean, those small percentages are there, and yeah, Michael just blew him out of the
Yeah,
water.
that was pretty rough because I saw him play the Art of War in the second one. I'm like, oh, he's got the third one, and I didn't actually spot the Sacred Art in the end.
And
then-
the Sacred Art, right?
Yeah, but that was an absolute monster turn. And to Jacob's credit, he like kept his composure probably better than me. You know, like, of course he had it. All three Art of Wars.
Yeah.
Lucky.
And he tried, but I think it's pretty difficult to overcome that sort of deficit. But I think that's the power of this end deck, right? It can get you in the bit of a grind out and play towards those spike turns, or it can just outright spike you and say good luck.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jacob Shaker, though, sort of another player with some of these premier results in the past. Pro Tour 1 in New Jersey, came top 4 on Briar, another classic
Yeah.
aggro deck from back in the day.
Yeah, I remember him playing a Briar list with quite a few blues against those Icelanders, and where most Briars were kind of folding to Iceland at the time, I remember him being able to just pitch the blue, kind of come in with. He was playing that kind of value game as well, which was like really cool to see.
See, the guy had like 19, 20 blues or so when a lot of them were playing 15.
Yeah,
That rings a bell for some reason.
yeah. I remember that was a great meta call at the time.
And it was cool, just looking at some of this endless as well, we did see a few differences. So Evan was the only one in top 8 playing Needles, which I think paid huge dividends. Those were awesome. But it was interesting seeing some of the other differences. So I know Jacob and Jacob and Michael were running I believe the full 9 of or close to 9 of Descendant Bonds, and we actually saw Evan not run the yellow copies of those and not sort of run a few different combo cards. So a lot of other players were playing things like Mauling Key, Flusterfist, just to get that value. And I saw that Evan preferred to run things like Spinning Wheel Kick.
Yeah.
And I actually really like the idea of Spinning Wheel Kick and 100 wins, just having those additional ways to spike extra damage.
Yeah.
Maybe another way to combo as well off the, what's it like, the Shifting Winds, the one that,
Swamp.
what?
Shifting winds of the Mystic Beast.
Swamp.
Swamp. Yeah.
Swamp.
But maybe just like another little way to utilize that, or just if you have multiple copies to heavily just go again combo cards to just extend.
It's I see it as a leg tap that has that combo tagline for Ancestral Harmony. When
Yep.
you play out Ancestrals, you have that extra kind of percentages to hit those off the top as well.
And seeing some of the disruption packages they were offering, so they were basically playing some mix of Blanche, Sensor, CNC, and Amnesia.
Yeah.
So I
And,
saw.
and Evan really put those Command and Conquers to good use, and his top 8 games, kind of weaving some damage, kind of getting his opponents to defend those early attacks, and then like getting that CNC at the end of the chain was pretty cool.
The cool thing about most of these disruptive cards, apart from Sensor, is that they also double as poppers for Prism. Because I imagine like a full stompy aggro Prism might be a relatively close matchup or somewhat tight. They can spike you pretty hard as well with all their 7-power heralds. So having access to some poppers to stop that is great. I mean, Blanche obviously fantastic to in the mirror as well. You can shut off their blues if need be. But I did note that Michael Dalton kind of went for close to the full package apart from Amnesia. So he went 3 Blanche, 3 Sensor, 3 CNC. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is pretty solid for the mirror. Like, you got that nice disruption tech, and then I watched the quarterfinal. He's like, it's better. 3 Art of Wars, maybe.
Yeah.
But Sensor is honestly a pretty cool card as well, right? You can name Crouching Tiger if you need to, or you can name Descendant or Bonds to shut off the big combo turn. So just lots of little cool differences in there. Jacob as well was the only top 8 scene that was playing the Arihon, the draw 3 cards. So maybe leaning a little bit more into that combo. And I also saw Michael and Jacob both running 3 Snag, and I wonder if that's maybe new respect.
I think that's really important, actually. I think it allows you to transcend on your opponent's turn, and rather than running defense reactions to play around your opponent's attack reactions when they're playing new, I think Snag is much more effective when you're tight on slots, and it just kind of acts as an everything card. Even on your turn, you can just Snag and just transcend.
It's such an insane blowout sometimes as well when they, maybe they drop a Persuasive or a Bonds and they just load up everything, like the Venomous Bite, the Justinic, the whatever, and you're just like, sweet snag, I'll take one.
It completely neutralizes the bonds, which is huge.
Yeah.
And Nuke can just come in with that consistent disruption. So having kind of that option to shut it down and give you that window, I think it's pretty important.
Yep, definitely. So I guess we should keep cracking along, talk about some of the other decks. We've mentioned Andrew's KO deck, very consistent, very strong. One thing I thought I wondered if you considered maybe playing was Amnesia. I don't believe I saw that in the list, but perhaps through his testing he felt he was comfortable playing into Zen anyway, or that it didn't really gel with his core game plan.
One of Andrew's, I thought, is like a really crucial addition, in my opinion, to the KO decks is running the Reckless Swings. I think that card these days against Enigma, it can be game winning.
That was a monster Reckless Swing he had. I think it was a semi-final.
I think so, yeah. It was.
Yeah, so he was playing against Aaron Grace, I believe.
Yeah,
I think it was Aaron, not Nathan, right? But yeah, which was crazy because he got the Miragai down with the 4 counters. And that game was actually, that was down to the wire. I think it was very well played by both players. And I thought it was just crazy skill that Aaron actually considered not attacking and playing the 10k reunion instead of the Miragai. And
it was Nathan.
Oh, it was Nathan?
Nathan in the quarters.
Okay, yep. Sorry, I've mixed it up. My apologies, Nathan. But Nathan actually considered
just dropping the 10k.
Just dropping the 10k reunion, which I thought, to consider that is such a good heads-up play.
You can see the Reckless in his hand. And you're like, please just drop the 10k.
Yeah,
Swings in, and it's like, no, Reckless Swing.
It's so hard to make that play there, but he just decided I understand. I feel like you've probably just got to commit.
I think you do have to just attack there. You can't play around Reckless Swing in that spot.
Yeah, it's just like there's 3 copies max, and you just you just gotta try your best.
Yeah. So so the Reckless Swing, as you mentioned, absolutely clutch in that matchup. I think that actually, was huge. That was hugely contributed to Andrew winning that game. So massive. We mentioned Austin Thomas briefly on the hybrid prison list. Really, really cool. I actually love that list. I know Rohan on the dev team is a huge hybrid prison fan, and he's like, yeah, like he's playing a similar list to me. And he looked through it, he's like, wait, no, this is spicy. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, very spicy.
One thing I did wonder, because I feel when you're playing the Iris hybrid game plan, you kind of, you've played a bit of prison, Jason. You kind of have to play a few less heralds, don't you, in order to accommodate that?
You definitely see that happening in the quarters game, Aaron versus Justin, where you can kind of see Prism stumbling a bit because he's drawing a bunch of auras and he's kind of not being able to put on the pressure and just allowing Enigma to just flood the board. So that's definitely something that you fall into when you're playing that hybrid list, as you don't really have the offensive capability to push down all those wards.
Yeah.
And I know that the Enigmas nowadays are running a lot less wards, so it's a lot easier to push through, but when you run a deck like that, you can just...
Yeah, and you're kind of forced to trim those red heralds. He wasn't running Herald of Protection red. Some of the kind of strong... There's a lot of these strong red heralds that you kind of have to give up in order to accommodate the aura package.
Exactly.
Yeah, and in fairness to Austin as well, I saw that game, and that was a very rough start for him, right?
Posed. I was like, this guy's chill as a cucumber, just has versing, sitting across from 5 spectral shields, all with counters on them, and he's just like, I'll just drop a Soraya, swing in, just playing to his outs.
Yeah, I know my man Jason, if that game was happening in Dev, he definitely would not have scooped.
It's a secret game. Don't tell people that stuff.
I'm Mr. Whippy over here, But it was just such a brutal start, right? The Sacred Art, the million spectral shields, and honestly, I think even if you were playing full Stompy, that would have been a difficult start to overcome because there's just so much value on the board. I think a Miragai came down shortly thereafter as well.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to be like, actually those lack of heroes cost you big time.
He got a library out and it was looking like he had a shot.
Didn't have his 2 yellows on that turn though.
True.
Yeah. Library is like the ultimate corner turner. But you stab
corner turner.
when you stab this library, if you can just stabilize just a tiny bit, you can
just wait a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but
you need the 2 yellows to corner turn
Yeah, you do. So it's a little bit tough. Then we had Will Bradshaw on Azalea.
Yeah,
I
shout
love
out
Will.
to TCG guys. I feel like Will's always putting in the effort. I love watching their streams, their tier lists. So it's cool to see kind of Josh Lau kind of putting the TCG guys in the Pro Tour, and now Will Bradshaw kind of carrying the torch into the US Nationals on Azalea.
Yeah, I love Will as well. He's such a nice guy. Like I feel like he's been around the Fab scene for a very long time now as well. I see some of the stuff pop up on Twitter. So when that name come up, I'm like, yeah, my man. So that was pretty cool to see. I saw just having a quick look through the list. It looked like I don't. How do I say it? Like a relatively normal Azalea list. Like
There's a few spicy things.
there are some spice cards. So I didn't want to say a standard Azalea list. I feel that's
Yeah.
a bit condescending, but I mean like it's your general sort of mix of pumps plus big arrows, and you want to drop those huge dominated arrows. So I had 3 Battlefront Bastion to deal with like maybe some poppers for Prism. Murkmire Grapnel in there for Enigma. And you're talking about some spice. You're talking about the 2 Codex of Bloodrot.
Yeah, I think Codex of Bloodrot is really cool. Giving the opponent a blood rot, especially like the enigmas, right? There's so many enigmas around, and prisms as well. It can be kind of frustrating when you're trying to do some big angel plays, but you just know you have a blood rot, and it kind of looms above you. Same with enigma. It's kind of it's just that card that can steal the tempo from enigma, kind of shut down their plays. So it was really cool to see that card in action.
Definitely. We've spoken a little bit about Aaron Grace already, but first Premier top 8 was one of the 2 Enigma players. Had the 3 Amnesia. I think a lot of players were coming prepared for Zen, which was very strong. Also had 3 Dense Blue Mist, so just a way maybe to try and stop those super go wide turns, like -1 to your entire board it's pretty damn good, you have to say.
Absolutely.
And so also had some Blue Sinks. So Blue Sync below is coming up, really good for transcending, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Some of the 10,000 year reunions. He went 6-0 in draft, which I think is very impressive.
Yeah, super impressive.
Which was quite cool. And I also noticed like the cool thing about some of these Enigma decks is the ability of them to go kind of aggressive.
Yeah, I think both lists to me kind of showcase kind of more of a tempo game plan rather than trying to drop a big ward and protect it, or try and develop a board. I think they're very they're very geared towards just try and deal some damage, maybe use those wards to soak up some damage on the clap back, and then try and kind of push damage again rather than play more control. So I think we saw that a lot in the Swiss on the Enigma games, but also in top 8. They're just not afraid to let the wards die, and having access to these big attacks like the phantasmaclasms and things like that, to just kind of say, you know what, I don't even need wards. I can just deal a bunch of damage, maybe next turn set something up and let it go, and just continue to pressure that way.
Yeah, because Jason, I was going to ask you, because you're one of our primo Enigma players in Dev, I would say. He's a bit noisy tonight because we're like, we're testing stuff. It's like, I need an Enigma game. Jason, come play me.
Oh, not again.
He has played over 4,000 games at this point.
So sick of it.
But I wanted to ask you your thoughts just on some of the differences between Nathan and Aaron's list. So I note that Nathan sort of went almost a little bit more aggro again. So he had the 3 Spears of Surreality. He had 3 Phantasmaclasm. I think Aaron only had 2. Also had 3 Weakest Link in there.
Yeah.
This like really disruptive package. And I feel you've mentioned that's sometimes how you prefer to play against them, to go a bit more tempo based.
Yeah, I mean, we've tested a lot of games. Probably not as many as people in the real world have tested, but we did find that like the more you try to like stem the bleeding with like stuff like Dense Blue Mist, the more you kind of just fall into the trap of having to defend every single turn, and you don't really get that offensive output. And if they just have a little bit over the top, you could just get overrun. So I think going aggressive is probably my preferred way of playing into aggro decks, particularly Zen. Because you have on-hits and they have they run the full Transcend package, so they can't really block that well.
Yep.
3 Outer Wars, full Transcend package. And personally, not a huge fan of Phantasmaclasm, as you saw in the top 8. I think it hit bonds, but it didn't matter.
Yep.
It's one of those things like sometimes you're just fixing their hand, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, ooh, that hand's not that great. I don't know what to pick, and all of a sudden,
I can see why they went for though. I mean, just like 3 for 9.
it's just the numbers, right?
And then sometimes you get them. Like maybe you get the one popper out, or because I saw some of these, and they were just going full aggro, being like, okay, sweet, spares into attack with like a shield for 4 into Phantasmaclasm. That's like 53 damage.
Yeah. and that's the thing. I feel like you can play things like the Weakest Links and the Command and Conquers as your disruptive tools. And they do play like Dissolve Realities as an extra disruption.
Yeah, Dissolve Reality looked really good at
Yeah.
times. I saw one of the Dissolve when, so I think it was actually Aaron playing against Andrew in that semi-final, just checking. When he Dissolved Reality, the Blood Rush Bellow, that was pretty good.
Yeah. But it is one of these things where Enigma shines on those lower life totals, right? Once you start threatening their life, when you're forcing those blocks, I think that's where you really take advantage and close the game out.
I think something that people can try. I know it has not received respect in, the Enigma player's eyes, but I think 3 visits is solid. I think
Yep.
like building your deck around getting a 3 visits to attack for 9 or 12 followed by a CNC, I think that is just huge. Like you've just pushed 18 damage, and because of the CNC, they're either forced to take it and try and push back to clear it, or they just can't push through, and then you got another turn of attacking for 9, or
You just get the counter on it through the Uphold Tradition and stuff.
exactly, or you can run secret spicy tick Aqualabs.
Aqualabs. Ooh, I've seen that. I believe Aaron Grace's list had Aqualabs.
I didn't
Yeah.
see too many people running that in the top 8, but I guess yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of feels like a few extra copies of Manifestations of Mirage in a way, right? Like there's like big attack that if you protect it, you can just continue to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just wanted to talk about draft briefly. I just want to say the numbers look pretty much an even spread. So day 1, 146 ends, 144 enigmas, 135 news. I mean, that's about as close as you can get, I think, over that sort of sample size.
And those were some great games to watch.
There's
Honestly.
some really good games, I think, through draft. I think I saw a few of Michael Hamilton's Enigma games, and like, man, I wouldn't want to play that dude in a mirror.
Honestly, yeah, watching Michael Hamilton like play those draft games, I was just like, this guy knows exactly, even just the way he's counting what he's gonna draw on like 5 turns ahead, and like just like kind of playing amazingly and cleanly in the present, but also like setting up those like end game states that it's just it was just super impressive. Especially there was a great Enigma mirror where both him and his opponent would just kind of create like spectral manifestations, try and clear the other wards, and then his opponent would do the same. That was really cool.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to practice for nationals or you're doing a bit of draft, it would definitely be a good idea to go back and actually watch the drafts, because the drafts were filmed as well. I believe the draft in process, which I loved.
Yep.
And then just watching some of those games was great.
Yeah.
Like my preferred Enigma approach is just do your stuff, and then if you track the pitch stack too closely, you lose a bit of equity, because like I want to be able to draw the 3 cheese and be like, oh yeah, great, I drew 3 no blocks.
So unlucky.
Blame it on that. Right?
Oh, so unlucky,
So
man.
unlucky.
It's it's like, oh, did you shuffle your deck? Oh, no.
I knew they were there, but I forgot.
Yeah. Day 2, pretty similar story. 64 Zen, 61 new, 60 Enigma. So I think
Clean, like that's as clean as you can get.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So that's so just a fantastic US Nationals, and of course Nationals aren't just like sort of national festivals these days, right? It's not just about the national championship. We had a huge calling. I think it was 531 players.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, props to all the players performing well at the calling, because it's just as hard, if not harder, than like nationals. They're very equal in terms of, it is that kind of feels like the day 2 event, but it's just as like impactful in terms of the players, but also the prizes are just as amazing.
For sure. Actually, sorry, I've forgotten. There was one point I wanted to mention in Nationals before we just moved on. It's I'm probably getting in trouble because I forgot a 9th place, but I did see that I believe Michael Cornett came in 10th place on Levia,
Yeah.
which was epic. And I was just like, I know Mr. Manstand was probably gutted. Probably had a special personalized graphic lined up for him. It was going to be Leviah in top 8.
Yeah,
but,
Leviah seems strong.
but
And
yeah.
I want to shout out Nathan Lapham he's actually on the TCG TED channel, on YouTube channel with Ted, and I'm a big fan of their show, and just want to shout them out. It's good. It's cool to see content creators. Making content takes so much time, and still finding the time to practice for these tournaments and actually perform is pretty impressive.
Yeah, speaking of Manson, actually, one other small thing is I love his production value these days, because when in the final, do you remember when Andrew blocked with the Scowling Flesh Bag into Evan's big turn? And I think, he's obviously sitting up for the Bonds play, and then, he defends, and I'm just like, oh my God, what card did he take? And in my head,
Isn't that Zoom?
In my head, I'm like, computer, enhance, and then on the screen, it's like, and then I'm like, where's the Bonds? But Evan, man, just kept it cool, calm, and collected, right? Just asked him the Bonds, went for it next turn, was all good. Yeah. But yeah, I think calling meta, Zen most played, 15%, new 14%, Azza 11, and Enigma KO 8%. So just somewhat similar to US Nats. Slightly different, probably spread a little bit less Enigma and everything. But I think one of the big stories of this event was, I probably should say Azalea, because Azalea won, but 3 Kanos made the top 8.
Yeah, I think Kano, and it's in a way, I feel like could be even more representative of what classic constructed metagame looks like, right? Because
it's pure CC.
It's pure CC. There's no draft rounds, so it's interesting to see all these kind of Kanos just smashing it. Like three is a lot, and I think Kano's definitely a deck that should be on people's radar for their nationals.
Yeah, and I think we saw shout out to William Pastel. Apologies if I missed the name up there, but I'm just looking through the gauntlet that he ran through to win as well. Play against Enigma, which you can get there, but it's a reasonably tough matchup. Kano won, and I'm not 100% sure if I feel you just got to try kill them quickly before they kill you.
Gotta disrupt them.
Yeah. Yep, and then Zen. So I think just walking through beating 3 of the big players in this metagame, I think really goes to show how strong Azalea is. I remember also watching Will Bradshaw's game against KO, and it was super, super, super close. I think there might have been a spot towards the end where if he hits on that blind arrow, he actually has lethal with the pump, plus
true.
Classic Azalea things. There's also a spot, I think, where he had to choose between blocking with the pump, which might have got him lethal, but going to 1 and being dead to reckless swing on board, and not blocking. And those are just such tough spots to navigate.
Yeah.
It's do I be a hero and just keep the double pump and then immediately die to reckless swing?
The balance of justice, that was pretty spicy into
didn't actually get to crack it. I guess it didn't line up with the way that the game played out.
Yeah, I don't think Andrew played out a Blood Rush that game.
No.
Maybe that could be it.
No, and I think Evan won one of his top 8 games without playing out an Art of War. So it just goes to show, to your point, that the good players at the top level, they can navigate anything really. Then we had the battle hardened.
Just for the calling, I do want to shout out Julian and Nia Tran. I believe those are the 2 players that I feel like keep on popping up at these classic constructed only events, and it's cool to see them kind of top 8 and just perform at kind of become those classic constructed kind of specialists in a way. I feel like Julian keeps on performing well with Kano, and Nia on
Zestig.
Yeah, on the Bezdeg playing whatever is the top.
Yeah, but I think Oliver Fee, that name rings a bell. So I think we've seen his name pop up a few times.
Standard illusionist player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and just sort of rounding out some of our other side events, because as we're going to mention as well, Nationals isn't just about national championships. There's been a massive focus on side events this year. So, just before we go on to Battle Hard, I just want to encourage everyone out there, if you're not qualified for Nationals, still get along to your national championship event. There's a ton of them coming up over the next few weeks. But for Battle Hard and US Nats, we had it won by
Bryce Morgan.
On Kano.
Kano, yeah.
Kano.
Smash
Man,
it.
just getting it done. So shout out to you, Bryce. And then the ProQuest Plus won by Colin Erickson on Kasai. For Kasai.
Kasai's still doing it.
I love seeing Kasai win. That's awesome.
Yeah, and the cosplay, I mean, Rachel, Max Ferocity, like, she just keeps on leveling up. Like, doing the Professor Tickler Voss, and if you haven't seen it, you have to check it out. It's amazing. And she's just been kind of being that kind of like the mechanologist cosplay, the kind of setting the gold standard in a way. It's been amazing. Also, one of my favorite cosplayers, Jay Wells, who's cosplay as Chief
Rakatan.
Yeah, I'm never gonna remember that. But yeah, shout out to you as well.
Yeah, I also liked Dex Fam, I think, from I follow a lot of his stuff. He's a crack up dude.
Barraging beatdown.
There's barraging beatdown. I love that. It was,
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you go to these events and there's people cosplaying. It's not just about that. The competitive tournaments.
grinders.
There's so many side events that you can join in on and come in for a day, come in for 2 days, and it's so much fun.
Yep. So like tons of nationals coming up. Like I'll actually be at New Zealand National Championships.
I think I'll be there too.
Oh yeah, turning up. Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop in.
Oh, there we go. Yes, I've
team.
been doing a little bit of commentary with my guy Newson. May you guys jump in for a guest round or so?
I'm going to cosplay as Zen.
Ooh, actually, I mean, I've got the hair for it almost. He actually
Just
has.
get a plushie tiger and you're done.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And also, I feel we had some of the Rosetta things being released. So
yeah,
wanted
so
to-
hype.
so cool, man. Love the art. Love the heroes in the set. But I just wanted to ask quickly what hero you're most excited for in Rosetta. I mean, I think I know the answer for you guys, but
We go first.
Aurora main through and
Yeah,
through.
I'm Aurora main as well.
So fun to play. I can't wait for everyone to experience it.
I'm a bit of a Florian guy myself. Love Florian. And it's cool because I feel the whole dev team, like, each of the people have some of their favorite heroes, and I think we have a good mix of all the four.
Oh, I like some of her dance as well.
Oh, yep.
Dance, yeah.
I thought you said you liked some of my dances, and I
I
was
like
like,
to Verdance.
yeah.
May I have for dance?
Yep. So I guess that pretty much wraps it up for us. I feel Zen is probably going to be the deck to target going forward. We'll have to see how people.
And Kendo's news top 8. Come on, guys.
Yep. See how people try and address it.
Not with Snag around.
Get a hard descent in bonds. Make the combos go on and on. It's the same phenomenon. You guys know that song?
Where is that? I can't see that on the run sheet.
It's actually
Cut the tapes.
it's actually quite a popular song right now. I've stolen lyrics, but whatever. But anyway, maybe we should wrap things up. We've probably gone on for too long. Get out there to your national championships, all the awesome side events. I want to see like some more cool cosplays come out there. I'm actually quite looking forward to UK Nats as well. A bit of trash talk between the UK and American scenes. I love that.
Definitely tune in to all the streams. A lot of these nationals are going to be streamed, so there's lots of stuff to view.
Yeah, especially New Zealand Nats where you can watch me commentate.
Mr.
It's not about me, but
No, it's about you.
sweet as. Thanks everyone. When Brian's not here, it's a bit of a mess, but we'll catch you all next time.